I've basically been covering Donald Trump for more than a decade at this point, and when things change really slowly over time, you sometimes don't notice that they're changing a lot over the long term. So I went back and I watched a bunch of Donald Trump speeches from 2015 when he came down the escalator and said Mexicans are a lot of rapists. I watched from the 2020 campaign, the 2024 campaign, and recent speeches. And when you watch Trump's speeches over time like this, over 11 years back to back, the change is really, really striking. Now, this is not an analysis of like, oh, Trump used to be honest, but now he lies. Or I don't want to do any of that crap where I create like a fictional version of 2015 Trump where he was reasonable and he was completely sharp mentally. He wasn't, but he was very, very different. And the early Trump seemed almost like he was present in the room. Stuff would happen and he would react to it in a normal way. He could tell a story that had a beginning, a middle, and an end, which he can't do anymore. The insults he would use a decade ago, they were cruel, but they were sort of like more creative. He delivered them with more energy. The comedic timing was like marginally better. And there was a degree to which, especially looking back, I get why people found it both entertaining and also saw him as kind of charismatic in a way that might get them to consider voting for him if they fall for all the stuff that he was selling. And that gets me to my second point, which is 11 years ago, 10 and a half years ago, 11 years ago, Trump was selling something whose appeal I can understand, although I believe he was selling it with lies and incorrectly framing himself as the guy who can fix it. So like, for example, America is getting ripped off and Americans are getting ripped off. And we're getting ripped off because these politicians in power are idiots. And we need a brilliant outsider who will come in and fix it. And then you can see that the audience sort of started to train Trump as Trump trained the audience. Trump would go, we're going to build that wall. And it would get this big response. And so he would sort of get energy from it and say it again. They had lock her up, and eventually he started with the fake news, and attacking immigrants was working. And what Trump was able to do earlier in his political career was figure out which buttons produce applause. And the speeches kind of became a collection of pressing all those different buttons. This has kind of always been my view of Trump, which is that there's no deeply held political philosophy underneath any of it. If being pro-war is good, he'll do that. If being anti-war is good, from the point of view of optics, he'll do that. What Trump has always responded to is attention, praise, grievance, whatever benefits him personally. So then we get to the 2020 election, and the speeches were different. Before 2020, Trump was mostly telling supporters, I'm going to make you winners. After the 2020 election, the message changed to, I'm the victim here. You need to protect me. You need to donate because they stole it from me. And every single subject after the 2020 loss kind of led back to what was done to Trump. 2016, Trump didn't have the I'm the biggest victim, I'm the biggest martyr kind of narrative. There was a little bit of like, I didn't have to do this, I was living a good life, but not like I'm the most unfairly treated person. After he started claiming the 2020 election was stolen from him, and prosecutors are persecuting me, and judges are corrupt, and Republicans even aren't necessarily defending me, and they're traitors. He started this whole, they are after me, but they're not just after me, they're also going after you. And what was really perfect about that is it turned Trump's personal problems into personal problems for his audience. So by the time that he got into this whole I am your retribution phase as we approach 2024, when I'm going to come back and I'm going to be your retribution. I feel like I have something very strange in my tooth. By that point, the movement was really organized around these are his grievances, but we have to avenge those grievances. So now we're at today, 2026. How Trump looks and how Trump sounds today is completely different. And over the weekend, I looked through the speeches, 11 years compressed into, 30, 40 minutes of clips. He looks swollen more than ever, regularly sweaty and exhausted, low energy, low stamina, seems difficult for him to even stand as long as he used to stand. He can't do the more animated performances that would carry him through speeches and rallies before. The language is really difficult to follow. And here there has been a big change. The stuff he does now, he'll tell one story, drift into the teleprompter, but then get distracted, retell an imaginary conversation, and then confuse a name and the timeline, and then eventually land on something unrelated. He always had a tendency to that, but it used to be out of being hyperbolic, whereas now it just seems like cognitive decline. Now, of course, I'm not diagnosing Trump. People who haven't examined him can't necessarily diagnose. There's some things you can diagnose or sort of evaluate just by looking at video. But what we can all do is compare Trump today with the Trump of 10 years ago. And there's been this remarkable decline. Even as we've talked about over the last couple of days, and we'll continue to talk about, the bizarre AI generated images that he's constantly posting to Truth Social, that fits into this too. Because a lot of those images straight up depict Trump as a king, a superhero, the Pope, Jesus, whatever. And what seems to happen is that as he has less control over reality, the fantasies he sort of has these proverbial wet dreams about become increasingly grandiose and outrageous. The early rallies really had some level of humor and what we might call more real excitement about the future, about whatever. Today, it's rage, self-pity, I'm the biggest victim, and this desire for revenge. The beginning of this was Trump promising, I'm going to make all of you feel like winners. And now it's all about trying to convince the audience he's never actually lost. This is a big change. Our interest in all of this is, of course, getting him out of power, getting Republicans out of power in November, and understanding this kind of evolution, for lack of a better term, so that we are better prepared to deal with what's coming in 2028. Do you agree with my analysis, the trajectory that I've kind of outlined? Do you disagree with it? Is it correct but not complete? Send me an email, info@davidpakman.com, or leave me a comment. Summer is better when good food doesn't require planning, and that is why our sponsor, Wild Grain, delivers sourdough breads, seasonal pastries, and French butter from small independent bakeries straight to your door. Everything bakes from frozen in 25 minutes or less. I love Wild Grain's slow-churned French butter on sourdough. Rich, lightly salty. It is a great snack. Easy upgrade for breakfasts or casual summer dinners with friends. Wild Grain is using simple, recognizable ingredients. They've got a slow fermentation process. You can customize your box with classic, gluten-free, vegan, and protein options. So if you're looking for an easy way to enjoy bakery quality bread at home, give Wild Grain a try. Over 40,000 five-star reviews, named USA Today's best food subscription box 3 years in a row. And their croissants are still winning awards. Go to wildgrain.com/Pakman to get $30 off your first box plus free croissants for life. The link is in the description.